Since the dawn of time, man has wondered what is the best and also the worst model for every 40k faction. It's a question we've all wondered, and today I'm going to be painfully working through the whole web store and giving you my slightly unhinged opinion. So buckle up because this is going to be a really long video. There's so many models to look at. So I saw Warhammer did a worst, like ugliest mini of each faction episode, and I wanted to look at both the ugliest and kind of the coolest model as well. Go check out the Warhammer episode. It's much better edited than mine, and they have microphones that don't sound terrible. But then come back and watch this one because so I tried wee hard. So before I start, I've kind of given myself some rules for this. So they're pretty loose, but mostly I'm only going to be looking at current products that are available on the Warhammer web store. That doesn't include made-to-order stuff. There's just old minis they're making for a limited amount of time. It's just stuff that's currently for sale. I'm going to be rating the whole set. So if it's one character, it'll just be that. If it's a squad, I'll be rating the whole box on its merits. So if there's one really bad guy in a squad, that's probably gonna affect my decision a little bit. Also, I'm not going to be including things which previously fell under the Forge World store. Although they're now on the same web store, I think it'd be pretty unfair to include them. Forge World stuff is either the coolest in the range for like some of the Tau stuff, or it's going to be like some of the worst for some of the really old sculpts that look kind of weird. I am going to be including resin models if they're fine cast and they were like always sold on the main web store. There is still a few of these knocking about. A lot of them are pretty rough, so I mean expect to see some of those in the worst maybe. But some of them are cool though, so I think one or two of them I've actually chosen as the best. That's probably just nostalgia speaking. I am going to be doing every faction, and I'm going to be doing all Space Marine factions, so like all the chapters that are listed as separate armies in the web store, with a few exceptions where it doesn't really make a difference. So starting with the poster boys, because there's about 800 of them to review, and every video like this starts with them. We're going to look at like the generic models that you can use for any chapter. Really annoying web store issue is you can't just look at like all generic Space Marines. You have to choose one of the big chapters. It's really annoying. Like if I was a new player and I didn't know what I was looking for, I wouldn't know what I wouldn't know to like choose Ultramarines or whatever. So I've chosen Ultramarines to look through the list, and then I've just like manually got rid of all the ones that are obviously Ultramarine only, and then just chosen from the generic list. For me, this was a really easy choice for my favourite like generic one. Ever since I clapped eyes on them, the Blade Guard veterans are, oh, they're just, they capture like the gothic aesthetic of Space Marines that we lost a little bit with the Primaris upgrade, if you can call it an upgrade. And the Crusader helms they've got are probably my favourite of the Astartes helmet patterns, other than maybe the Beakies, but you know they're both pretty cool. I really like their shields. They've got those kind of like silly tabards, which I love in like a 40k way. And also they like weirdly brought back Volkite for the Sergeant. Love Volkite. It's just like yellow plasma, but it's pretty cool. We also have I'm going to be doing honorable mentions because this was really hard to try and choose like one or two. So my honorable mention is the Primaris Chaplain on bike. If the bike actually had ground clearance and made sense as a bike, this would have been number one. Like this would have been my best. I really like Chaplain's skull helmets. I think they're very cool. I love the rib effect on the armor. His Crozius, Crozius, is that what it's called? His big staff thing is cool. Also, chaining a book to a bike, which you then can't read because you chain the book shut, is insane. It's very fun though. I've also just noticed the end of his handlebars have like teeny weeny little skulls on them, which is excellent. And I've counted all the skulls. I've just gone and done a little count, and they have 8 skulls on this model, which is good numbers for a Space Marine model. So now I'm going to move on to the worst. And please remember that this is subjective, and if you're not fine with that and my decisions, there's probably really no point in you watching a video of a stranger talking about plastic models for what I'm assuming is going to be like an hour or something. So anyway, to the surprise of probably nobody, the worst mini currently in the generic range is the Primaris Invader ATV. What what were they thinking? It's like the bikes. There's no ground clearance. It's not really clear in the image how the wheels could turn because they're like attached at the back to the main body of the buggy, and I can't see any suspension as well on like the front wheels because like the back one it's got like a bit of a weird like you could imagine that would be suspension maybe, but then at the front like it's like bolted on at the back of the wheel, so I don't really know. Calling an all-terrain vehicle when the only terrain it could drive on is like a straight piece of road is crazy to me. But like, I don't know, man. I hate the cross-shaped like blank panel bit in front of the driver. It's just kind of like a weird. It looks like an afterthought. Although I am interested that the symbol on that is is an Imperial Aquila, which we've very rarely see on like 40k Astartes models. Usually it's the Imperialis, which is like what the driver has with the skull in the middle. The OG Rhino kit had like a weird hybrid where it was an Imperialis, but you could still see the eagle head behind the skull. I think there's only been a couple of Astartes models that had an Imperialis on. I think they've all been like special, like limited runs for like store anniversaries and stuff that I can think of. I don't know. I guess the designer just either didn't realize or thought this was cooler. I don't know why it would be an Aquila. I realize I'm ranting about something that only like 7 Horus Heresy players are gonna get hung up on, but it's kind of interesting to me. I don't understand why the minigun barrel is like narrow, like the barrel itself is like wider than like the muzzle, like the end of the barrel that comes out of the gun is like half the thickness of each barrel for it. I don't know what that's about. It's also like directly in front of the driver, so I know like he's wearing a helmet. He's not going to get deafened by it, but I mean that's got to be distracting, right? Like there's going to be like flashing and stuff, and I'm sure he can still hear it. Like it's just weird. I don't understand why this vehicle exists. They could have made such a cool like the sidecar bikes from like Old Hammer. They're so cool. Like they're stupid, but they're really cool. Why didn't we just get another one of them? Why did we get this weird little go-kart thing? Also, like, why do they have all-terrain vehicles when Cole has just started manufacturing hover tanks? Like, if all the tanks, like the Rhino and the Land Raider replacement, if they can hover, then they're already all-terrain. Why would you need to make one with wheels that's worse at that job? I don't get it. Anyway, also, I've just noticed another thing. The gun's firing arc is like probably less than 90 degrees to the front because like he can't the space where he is at the back, if he tries to turn more than that, he's got to like lean over and like lean out the side of the car, and he can't aim backwards obviously because there's no room for it. So it's like just completely pointless as a vehicle. Like maybe if it was back facing that would have been better. And then he has like a bit more of an arc. I really don't know. I don't think this model can be saved. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the first Primaris models that we see kind of go out of print because I can't imagine they've sold many of them. Another honourable mention, which isn't going to surprise probably anybody, is the Desolation Squad. Man, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. It's got like that like tactical like modern military aesthetic. It's kind of weird because like Space Marines to me have never had that as a thing. Like they're always been like very gothic and kind of the guns are silly, but they're not this silly. They're like silly from like a kind of just like weird design perspective, but not like just like an over the top modern looking gun. I don't I don't know, this doesn't look like it fits into the range. I also think like even with power armor, like I know they can lift big weights, but surely aiming is ridiculous when your gun must weigh like I don't even want to guess how much that weighs. Also, like just put the rocket launcher like have it like shoulder braced or like put it on a even like backpack mounted like a Terminator or something. That would make more sense. But like having them kind of strapped to like a like a rifle thing that isn't I don't think it's a right like it's got like a little like rocket pods. I don't know what I also don't know what the ammo belt's feeding. Is that feeding the rocket pods or not? Because I don't know. It's unclear. I don't know. They're moving away from like the kind of classic, admittedly somewhat suboptimal, like having Devastator squads with like mixed weapons because they kind of now all the squads have like the same. They're either like heavy armor or anti-infantry or like mid-ranged or long-ranged. So I mean that's cool, that's fine, but just give them all like normal rocket launchers like Horus Heresy. Don't need to like this is like an orc gun. It's just a bunch of shit they just strapped together. I also side note, but it's also hilarious to me that the little guy in the middle is holding like this piddly little. I mean, it's a heavy bolt pistol, but like piddly little gun in comparison to like the massive one. It just makes me think like how wrong has your fight gone when your like long range rocket launchers are like you're so close to the enemy you have to pull out a pistol. Like what happened? What went wrong? I'm also doing another honourable mention, and one that's not it's not Primaris, because I know some people are going to be annoyed if I bash Primaris too much. But the Storm Talon gunship is I've never seen one in person. I've never seen anybody play one or own one. I've never seen one in a Warhammer store, like not in the box, like on display. I don't know if it's just because flyers have been a bit weird. Like I like flyers. I know they kind of struggle to find their place in the game. But I don't know whether it's just because it's so stubby looking. Like, if it had Valkyrie proportions and it was like a bit longer, or maybe like had like kind of wings that looked like they were gonna like do something, that could be nice. And it does look a little bit like a rhino. Like it kind of has like the steps on the side kind of match the side door of a rhino, and kind of I don't know, just like the general chunky like blockiness of it feels like visually similar. So that's cool, but it's just weird looking. I don't know. It isn't in the same league as the other two. Like I don't dislike this as much. Like I can see people being nostalgic for this, but it's just the only like non-Primaris one that I kind of still turn my nose up at a little. Okay, so moving on to chapters that are like distinct chapters and not just the generic Space Marine line. So we're going to start with Black Templars. We're just going down the list as they're presented like on the web page. So the best for me, I did struggle with this, but I think my main favourite is Chaplain Grimaldus. He's a cool character. Like he's a fan favourite. He's been lovingly Primarisified, but he still managed to keep like all of the extra like gothic like clobber that Black Templars have. The skull on the knee pad is insane. I love it. I love how it's not a separate metallic color like every other skull knee pad that Space Marines have, but it's just textured like a bit of like the main greave, like the rest of it. It's nice. And I love his little retinue of dudes just like holding all of his religious stuff, especially the one holding the Stone Aquila. Like, it just seems so unnecessary. I do think the banner is almost, but not quite too kind of, it's too much. I think it stays just on the right side of silly and kind of on the fun side. Very big fan. I don't have another honourable mention, but to be fair, most of the range, the new stuff is great. I do have to say though, for my worst, I might upset people by doing this. It was a hard pick, but the Castellan model, he just looks a little off to me. I don't know. I love how he's based on like an old piece of artwork, but it's just like the weird posing of the axe and kind of like his chest is really big for some reason, and like also like his face is like a weird shape. Like I get that it's mirroring the artwork, and the artwork had weird proportions, but I don't know, it just feels out of place. He looks so chunky and just kind of, I don't know. The more I look at it, the more maybe I pick one up as like a display piece, but it feels a bit out of place to the rest of the range. Moving on to Blood Angels, they're vampires, and I'm pretty sure in 8th they suggested that Call had somehow cured the vampire thing. Thankfully, they backtracked on that because that would have been really boring. I would have chosen Dante as the new model because he's very cool, but his new head is weird as hell. Like, it's a very weird head. I don't know what they did wrong with it. It just doesn't look right to me. So I'm going to go for an older model, for Astarath the Grim. Very surprised I went for this because negatively it's made of fail cast. It's an absolute bastard to build. It has nipples, which is kind of weird. But positively, he does look like a vampire. It's got like the feathery wings. I love the muscle armor. I'm not sure on the dates if they line up, but it looks like that Vlad the Impaler armor from that old Dracula movie. Okay, I checked, and that film came out in 1992, and this model came out in 2010, so it's not anywhere near as close as I thought. But I love it. It's a cool. Even if it's like inspired by that, I love the muscle armor. I also love how like they're doing the pseudo kind of floating effect using the paper. It's much cooler than using like the tactical rocks that we're kind of used to seeing nowadays. It just makes me miss like the older sculpts. Like I know they were a little goofier, but they just had like a lot of character. I wonder if this was a physical sculpt rather than CAD. It certainly looks more like it. Honorable mention wise, I chose the Death Company Chaplain pretty much for the same reasons as Astarath. He's a pretty similar model. Unfortunately, he's on a tactical rock, but I guess they couldn't do the scroll gimmick for every single character, but he's very cool. Also the Sanguinal. There's too many honorable mentions here, but he's got the scrolls, he's got the wings, he's got like the cool like a muscle armor, and he doesn't have the awful face that the new Dante has. Seriously, I don't know why the Dante face looks so weird compared to this. It is also painted in like non-metallic metal, which is you don't see really anymore on the web store, which is nice. So the worst from the range. This was a hard pick, but sadly I'm going for Mephiston pretty much entirely because his collar, it could have been cool, but it's just a little too silly. Also, again, he still has nipples. It's kind of weird. I get that there's like artwork with him having the huge collar, and I know they're trying to make him look like a vampire. It's just too much. Also, like his gun's just kind of boring. I wish I'd have gone like a little bit weird with it. Even if it just had like some more Blood Angel stuff that wasn't just like the little vial of blood hanging from the handle seems like an afterthought really. So moving on to Dark Angels. I'm going to try not make any jokes about Dark Angels being heretics and traitors because, you know, but I mean they are. So, but I'm listing this under Space Marines, like loyalist Space Marines, rather than Chaos because I don't know, for the 3 people who still find that joke funny, I didn't think it was worth all the aggro, the diehard Dark Angels fans. So, the best one, it shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. It's one of the nicest minis in recent years, I think. I think it far surpasses the new Gilliman mini. It's for Lion. I'm also going to just mention here that Lion L. Johnson is a weird name, and it's funny how most of the Primarchs have very stupid names, but I mean, just look at his face. It's very cool. I like how he has Big E's like shield. If each Primarch has a piece of his equipment, they could like morph together like Power Rangers into a big Emperor mecha, which I'm sure all the 40k fans would love to see, and no one would be upset about that. I'm sad that his minion can't hold his helmet as well instead of the scabbard because that's a cool helmet. But I don't want to hide his face. So honorable mention wise, the Interrogator Chaplain. At this point, I'm realizing that I probably just like chaplains because I keep choosing them. This guy was just very cool. He looks very, very grimdark. He kind of has that like knightly vibe still of the Dark Angels, and I really like the smoke effect. Some people aren't fans of the smoke effects. I don't know why. I think it's a really good bit for doing like object source lighting on. I think it tends to look way better than doing like a physical version using like people use like wool or cotton to like make like the smoke effect. I think this one tends to look a little bit better normally. I like it. He's a cool guy. So for the worst ones, I mean I could have gone with Ravenwing because like most of them are really dumb looking. I'm sorry if you like them, but they are stupid looking. I'm going with the company veterans. What? Why are these still on the web store? They're insane. Like they're so old. I like the idea, like I get it. It's like it's like monk robes on Space Marines. I know they're really old, and I don't mean to bash on like the old stuff because I get that at the time this was really cool and people probably do like these models. I just think the robes are maybe like too much. I'm glad nowadays it's like small tabards rather than like these kind of big bed sheets. I think the guy in the middle back is probably the best because you can still see the power armor underneath it. So it's not just kind of like a weird blob in the middle with power armor, arms and head. Like it still looks like what they're going for. Moving on, this is kind of a weird one because although they come under Astartes, I always kind of think of these guys as an Inquisition faction rather than a Space Marine faction, which is probably more of a me problem and not a problem with the web store. But I don't know, like if my opponent said they were bringing Space Marines and then on the day I asked, oh, which chapter did you bring? And they said Death Watch, I'd say, well, that's not a chapter. Like you're not bringing Space Marines, you're bringing Death Watch. Typing out this like script made me realize maybe it's just I have some issues of my own to work through. But anyway, the best model for these guys is the Watchmaster. I hope other people agree because this is probably one of my favorite minis. He's on my list of like ones I want to get just as a display piece because he's just cool. I'm pretty sure he came out before Custodes came out as like a plastic range, if I remember rightly. And this was kind of, I'm pretty sure this was the first time we saw the Custodes. I forget what they're called, the bolt pistol spear thing. He's just very cool. I like his design. I like how over the top he is. I like the beard. That's cool. We like a Space Marine officer with a beard, and he looks like a general. Like he looks like a leader. Maybe even more so than a lot of the Space Marine captains. Like, this guy looks like a general of your army and like a warlord. Maybe does that a bit better than some of the other chapters. I do also really like the hammered metal kind of look that you get on the Imperial eyes, on like the greaves and his folds, and like there's a bit on his torso as well. Big fan. So the worst one for me, this was a very easy pick. I hated this model when it came out. It's the Corvus Black Star. I'm sorry. If you really like this, I'm really sorry, but it's just so weird. It's a Space Marine vehicle. It just looks fucked. It doesn't look like you could fit more than maybe 3 Marines in it. The fact that they're trying to convince you that this fits bikers, Terminators, and Marines in this is I mean, I guess it's a general scale issue that all the 40k vehicles have, but to me, it's just kind of more egregious by the fact that it looks awful. I've used these pictures here as it kind of shows the problem more than the box art picture, but the front profile is so weird. Like having the 2 doors on the front is mental, like in front of those 2 cannons. Like is it swooping in and they're jumping out the front? If it did that, it would have to hover to do that, I guess. Otherwise, they just get mowed down. And then it can't use the guns to provide support while they're jumping out because it would kill the people jumping out. Also, like, jets on the wingtips is insane. Like, were they intended as, like, is it a VTOL? Is that a thing that they have? I thought the rules wise when it first came out, I thought it was just like a flyer and it had to have like a minimum move distance. It couldn't just stop like a helicopter or something. Those jets would like rip the wings off, right? Surely, given how heavy that thing has to be. Also, given the fact that some of the details on the top seem to be made of stone. So clearly this thing is heavy as hell. Alright, so I got so angry about this, I started Googling and doing some maths. And I Googled some stats for a Harrier jump jet. It's like the famous VTOL fighter jet. I think it might be a bomber as well. I don't know. It's a plane. Obviously, this monstrosity is not a fighter jet. It's like a transport thing. But funnily enough, nobody's made anything this insane in real life. So I don't know. We're going off that. So the Harrier weighs about 15 Imperial tons. That's British Imperial, not Imperium Imperial. I don't like Imperial, but I'm using it because for like working out some of the maths I was doing. It was going to be easier. Wait, hang on. Fuck, wait, no, I found a different picture while I was researching. so the jets can face downwards, and it is like a VTOL thing. Okay, never mind. I'll stop being angry. Maybe this does make sense. Yeah, okay, fine. Alright, fine. Maybe it wouldn't explode, but like I don't know. It's weird to me that why would they let the jets angle outwards at all? Like why not just keep okay, fine, fuck it, whatever. It's a weird model. Sorry. Okay, so moving on to Grey Knights. I'm going to try not to have a breakdown on this one. One thing of note here is why do they not call these guys Silver Knights? Because they aren't grey, they're silver. Anyway, this video has turned into me just trash talking, like my favourite setting. I do actually like Warhammer. Anyway, my favourite, Castellan Crow. The pose, the sword, all of him, like he's just very cool. I'm not sure why his left pauldron isn't the normal Grey Knight pauldron with like all the writing. I'm sure there's a lore reason for that. Or maybe they just forgot. I don't know. He also has his Stormbolter on the right arm, which if I remember rightly from my old Grey Knights, it's normally on the left. I don't know if that's important. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into this too much. I think it's very cool that he's a Grey Knight and he wields a demon sword, but he's so holy that he's able to use it without getting corrupted. That's like it's like manga levels of male fantasy. It's very cool. The effect on the sword, very cool. He doesn't have a beard though. He'd be much cooler with a beard. I keep saying that about beards. So my worst pick, I'm pretty sure most people guessed this one because it's the only kind of weird looking one. It's Kaldor Drago. His face is fucked. It's like a senile man with a goatee. His sword angle's like whack. It's like a very weird pose. It's like he's like raising the sword to strike someone or like block someone. I don't know, or maybe he's about to like hold it over the shield in like a dueling kind of pose. I don't know. It's like a common Space Marine problem where the sword is like in a weird gesture that I don't understand what he's doing. Like, is he saying like charge? But if he is, why isn't he leaning for? I don't know. Could have been cool if the sword was different. Although his lore is terrible. Matt Ward, I'm looking at you. The carving his name into a demon heart is 11 times too much. Like that's even for a Grey Knight, that's too much. Like don't do that. That book was insane. Although actually, the more I look at this, like the more the rest of the model is actually really cool. Maybe he's fine and I'm just being grumpy about it. Maybe the face is alright. I guess he is an old guy, and I have been saying I like beards. And I guess a goatee's kind of is that a beard? I guess it's kind of its own thing. Anyway, I'm not going to be doing Imperial Fists. They only have one special mini that's still on sale for them. He's got some weird stuff going on, but he's not enough to like just chat shit about him too much. Same for Iron Hands. Iron Hands never get any love. It's nice that they've got like a new Primaris Iron Father dude. I've never met anyone who actually collected Iron Hands properly. Just this like one guy with unpainted Space Marines that he ran them as Iron Hands in 7th edition purely for the Feel No Pain because he was like doing like a cheese list. Fuck that guy. Anyway, I'm not giving Raven Guard the same treatment as those two chapters, even though there's only one special, because Cave and Shrike is absolutely fucked. It's my video and I make the rules. Kavan, this dude. It's probably mostly the fringe actually. He looks like when they tried to make Peter Parker like have like an emo phase in Spider-Man 3. It also needs to maybe not be standing on like that weird terrain piece. They've given him like the Forge World character series like model bases from like the Horus Heresy where it's like a huge display piece, even though this is like intended to be like a model that you actually play with. Change the base and actually make him wear that beaky helmet. I think he'd probably actually be insanely cool. Also maybe like his pistol's a bit weird, but I think that's just a generic problem with like the new bolt pistols. They're kind of boring, I think. I'm also not going to be doing salamanders. Same thing as the others where sadly they don't get a lot of love. The new guy they did is decent. Hestan is still cool if a little dated. Otherwise there's nothing here to bash on. I am going to be doing Space Wolves because, hoo boy, they have a very high amount of unique characters and minis, but they haven't had maybe any love in a long time. I think they do have like maybe one or two Primaris, but like other than that, they've still got all these old characters that are just fucked. So my favourite guy is Ragnar. I think he's neat. He captures the Space Wolf vibe very well. He looks like Viking-y. He's got runes. He actually looks good in Primaris, which is a pretty big feat. He's got a cool like double-edged chainsword, which seems kind of dangerous, but like it's pretty cool. He's got those like wolf heads on the backpack. He also has like a cool face. Kind of got those like dad sideburns going on, but like I guess we can forgive him for that. He is also, I'm looking at this, I'm pretty sure he's on the exact same base as Shadow Sun from the Tower range. But that's fine, I guess. Only so many different tactical rocks you can use. For the worst, I'm not going to choose Wolfen because I kind of dig them. Shockingly, I know, but I'm not going for the easy pick of those like stupid looking Fenrisian wolves because they're really old resin, and I think this one is far more egregious. So I'm going to pick Logan Grimnar. Now, a lot of Space Wolf players, if anyone watches this, are probably going to be annoyed because I'm sure some certain people really like this guy. But what the hell is like going on? Like, it's potentially like a really cool idea. Like like having like a like the ship prow like design is cool, but like how does it work? Like does it just fall over when it's stationary, or does it hover? And if it hovers, like why does it need wolves to pull it? And like having like those like metal bars between him and the wolves is weird to me. If I had this model, I'd definitely be like swapping them for like chains or something, maybe just something that looks a little bit less weird. I also think like how does he engage enemies? Like does he just drive past them and hit them with an axe? Like an axe is that's a weird cavalry weapon. Like he needs like a lance or something. And also like I'm pretty sure Vikings don't do cavalry. Didn't do cavalry. Sorry. I don't know. I'm just still staring at those support rods that are attached to the wolves. I bet they snap immediately. To be fair though, as well, I do really like the saga carving on the bow of the ship thing. And if you look at the guy himself, he's actually really cool. It's just a shame about the boat thing. Yeah, I don't own this obviously, but if you do and this hasn't broken, let me know because I'm sure it would break like if somebody coughed near the game table. So moving on to Ultramarines, the best for me, and this is a hard pick, but probably Calgar and his honor guard. I think they did him pretty cool. I'm not sure if he's wearing Gravis armor. I hope not. I don't really like Gravis armor, but his is kind of weird enough that maybe I can forgive it. And the fists are very silly. He's a very silly character, but I guess, the eagle backpack bits kind of make up for it. My main thing here is the guards. They're really nice. I've always secretly really liked those little eagle face bits, and the cloaks look very Greek. I don't know, because it's fastened at the shoulder or something. They just look like kind of toga-esque. I mean, also the more I look at the upside down Omega sign thing, the less I like it though. It really is like a toilet seat, isn't it? Strange. Honourable mention here for the Ultramarine Honor Guard. It's a nice kit. It's kind of for similar reasons to why I like Calgar and his guard. They're nice sculpts. I don't think we're going to capture this kind of thing again. This was very much like, they look a bit dated, but this was kind of my era when I started, I think. And I guess it's just nostalgia. I just like kind of this like general vibe they have. So the worst one for these guys is I'm choosing Uriel Ventress. He's like a Black Library character model, I think. I don't like how fucked up his armor is. Like it's like somebody described Primaris to the artist like before it was actually like finalized design wise. It's got weird trims on the pauldrons that are like 3D. The lower legs are like really weird and like blocky looking. Like the feet look like Leviathan Dreadnought feet from the new plastic kits. They're like, it doesn't read like a normal Primaris armor at all. I don't know if there's a reason in the books. Maybe they say, oh, he's like a normal Space Marine, but he has like fucking blocky legs or something. I'm assuming not. He also has like a weird elbow joint. Otherwise, though, I guess he's pretty cool. Like, it's nice that they make like Black Library character models. It just kind of looks a bit, I don't know. I'm not a fan. I'm not going to be doing white scars either. They've got one guy with a bird. He's pretty cool. Nothing else. It is a travesty that they haven't had bikes that are like a multi-part kit. They've just got those 3 monopose ones from I think the 9th edition. So moving on to Adeptus Sororitas, or Sisters of Battle, as everybody calls them. This is really tough. They're all pretty much really nice minis in this new range. I'm a little bit mad about the legs on those Paragon warsuits. I don't know how they work. Mostly, I love all the models. I could have easily chosen any of the tanks. They're all very cool, but I think it has to be this insanely over-the-top organ missile launcher dude. It's the wildest, like, Catholic battle nun design ever. The helmet on the organist, the pianist, the organ woman, is very nice. I like how she's playing an organ. That's kudos. There's actually an organ there. Also, the front grille goes very hard. It looks like those like iron fencing bits that you see in like really old Catholic churches. Like there's like that secret area in some churches where they have like, I don't know, like relics or something. I don't know, but like they have this like wrought iron fence thing that this kind of reminds me of. Very nice. Honourable mention here is the Triumph of St. Catherine. It's a lovely centerpiece, hideously impractical and kind of weird as like a combat unit. I don't see them actually fighting. Like I don't know, do they just leave the woman, like the body, like leave that in the middle and then run off and kind of shoot some dudes? I don't know. It's kind of weird. I do wish the box art, like paint job, they'd actually painted the schemes, because each of these sisters are from a different of the main like orders, but they haven't painted them any differently. They all look like the standard colours. I wish they'd kind of made them a little bit more distinct. Would have been cool. Part of me wants to buy this just to display, but I look at my dwindling shelf space, and I've already said that like 3 times in this video, and there's not enough room to fill it with all that sort of shit. Maybe in like 10 years I'll grab this. The worst one, it's kind of cheating because this is a metal mini, and obviously it's like old as sin. I don't know how many metal minis are left on the store. I don't know. He just seems like really boring compared to the rest of the range. I think he's got that issue where like his sleeves are metal, so there's no indentation, so it's just kind of painted black, which I know that's like a limitation of metal and like casted miniatures, but it still looks kind of weird. And I guess it's such an old mini that like I'm just surprised that like out of the smaller handful of metal minis that are still on the web store that like this guy's one of them. I wonder if they just had a bunch of them left over in stock and they literally just keeping it there until they've actually finished selling them. It's just taken this long. I think I actually have this mini somewhere. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what I got him for. I don't know. I definitely had him a while ago. I'll have a look for him and see if I do still have him. But yeah, he's pretty rough. I guess if I'm being fair, he's not terrible. He's got a weird face, but he's kind of like a product of kind of his time. And I guess he's not too horrible. It is mostly the face. Moving on to Custodes. Kind of a weird one because I do like pretty much all of them. The only kind of downside with Custodes is that if you don't like gold, which I'm not a huge fan of as a color, you kind of stuck with them. I think if I ever did paint Custodes, I do them like a very silvery gold, like a platinum-y kind of color, because I feel that would still work. But kind of yeah, I don't know. I have this like aversion to gold as a general color. I don't really find it as pleasing. My favorite though is the Blade Champion. He's just a very cool, like he's got like a very cool dynamic pose. I feel like I've said dynamic pose quite a lot, but it looks like a snapshot of somebody actually fighting rather than just kind of a dude standing there. He's got very nice armor, he's got a very nice helmet, and I think he looks kind of like he looks Roman to me. I don't know if it's because of his little tassets, but he's cool. I like him. The worst one for Custodes, I kind of struggled a little bit. Kind of all the normal models, like there's not many, but the Land Raider for me, like the Venerable Land Raider, it's just a normal Land Raider, but with like gold paint on it. The box, I don't know, it doesn't suit Custodes as a vehicle. It's like a really old mini, even now, even for Space Marines, and it kind of it doesn't fit Custodes, I don't think. I think their like Forge World one definitely does, but I mean the problem with Custodes is that you kind of do need to buy into Forge World to kind of fill out your roster properly. I don't know how much the Custodes tank is, like the resin one. Oh, so it's it's 112 for like the little tank, and then the big one is 364 pounds. Like how big is he though? There's nothing to scale it against. But that must be huge for 360, right? He's on a 160 mil round base, which I think is the same as, I don't know, I've got the Town R model. I think that's on a 16 centimeter base. So I guess that is pretty big. That is a big. That's about like 10 kilograms of resin. Is it transport as well, or is it just a fucking? It has a magma blaze cannon. Doesn't say that it has store. Imagine taking this and it's just one thing with one gun. It doesn't seem to have like a second gun on it. Is it just one big cannon? Imagine paying 360 for like a. Hang on, I'm gonna have to look how many points this is in game because it's piqued my interest. It's 580 points in game, so it's cheaper than the smaller Titans. So it's kind of between a Knight and a Titan. It's got 22 wounds with a 2+ save, toughness 12. It only has the one weapon. It's got a 36-inch range. 4 attacks, strength 12, AP -3, damage D6 +1. And then if it's in, oh no, this is 2. There must be another gun somewhere. There's a second one called a magma blaze cannon, and that's only got 3 attacks, but it's strength 18, AP -4. I mean that is that is pretty good. I feel for 364 pounds, I'd kind of want a small Titan, you know. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's quite a lot for. It's an alright mini, but also like I don't know. Anyway, so I got sidetracked again. The Land Raider, the Venerable Land Raider, it's in gold. Is it a different box? Like, is it gold on the box? And do the instructions, do they call it a Venerable Land Raider, or is it just a normal? That must cost a lot of money for Games Workshop to facilitate for something they probably don't very often sell, and for something that is just a normal Land Raider. I seem to remember they did the same with Grey Knights years ago. I'm not sure. Maybe that was just like an alternate scheme on the box art or something. Anyway, there's enough ranting about this fucking model. Moving on to Adeptus Mechanicus next. I love these guys. Very cool little robot dudes. If you couldn't tell, I like my Scutari, if that wasn't evident. My favourite for this one was really easy. It's one of my favourite models that they've ever made, I would say. It's the Scutari Marshal. I've got a little one of the Joy Toy, like the figures they did. He sits on my desk. It's a very cool pose. The only potential downside is that he does have a tactical rock that he's just standing on, but I can forgive it because the rest of the model is insane. I think his helmet's very cool. He looks very Roman. He looks like a centurion kind of guy. I like his gun. I'm a big fan of those little phosphor things. He's got this little clobbering stick. I think the worst one is definitely these guys. The monks, the Corpuscari. They're like there's two sets for the priests, and this is the ranged version. I do like the other version. They've got like staves instead of like whatever's going on here. I don't like these guys like the hand poses. And it's kind of like awkwardly like it's like the lights have turned out and they're like searching for something in the dark. I don't know what they were doing with this. I feel like not a lot of people like these models, and this was during a time when Games Workshop were really determined to do like dual kits where they built two different things, which I know like a lot of sets do now, but they don't seem afraid to just have like single option kits anymore, because this one did not need the two options, and I've never seen anybody run these. I've never seen these for sale in a store. I've never seen anyone post about painting these on the internet. Like I said, I do like the stave ones, but again, they're probably like some of the only ones I've ever actually seen. I think I get what they were going for, like with the Tesla coil kind of Frankenstein-y vibe. I don't know if that fits in with the rest of the range, but there's like a civil war between these two different priest cult things. They're fighting about like, I don't know, I think it's like if the Omnissiah prefers like coils or sticks or some shit. I can't remember what. It's not that, I don't think. It's a pretty big part of their lore though, and I don't know whether the lore came first and then they had to make two minis, or whether that was just something they made up, like to justify like the two sets. Yeah, these guys, they are not it. Honorable mention as well for the worst one is this tank dude whose name I have not written down. I love this mini when it's a transport. I like how like it looks like a beach landing hovercraft thing. I think that's very cool and unique. But building it as a tank like this is very weird. It's weirdly like it's like very front heavy and boxy. I don't like how the turret's like kind of looks too small for it, and it just kind of seems like an afterthought. I feel like they could have made the whole front of it could have been like a big cannon like on the Vindicator. I feel like that would have been very cool looking, whereas this one was, I don't know, it just looks kind of out of place. I also the prow bit at the front, how it faces inwards and down. It's very strange to me because like for a tank, I feel like any incoming shells would deflect it downwards and into itself, which not ideal. I feel like it should deflect shells off of it rather than fucking into itself. I think if the front was like a Vindicator cannon, I think I'd be fine with it. Also, as a side note, I'm not choosing the Stilt Sniper guy, the new guy, as the worst mini. I think he's cool as hell. I think he looks like the Dune kind of people, like the Martian kind of thing they were going for. I love him. I think he's amazing. He's an amazing model. So, I know lots of people hated him, so cope and seethe, Stilt Sniper haters. The next faction is Agents of the Imperium. It's a weird army at the moment. It has been leaked that there's a new codex coming out soon, which I'd be interested to see how they run it. It is sort of the kind of, they just throw all the kill teams that don't really fit into like a full army, like the RBTs and the Navy breaches. Lovely models, both of them, by the way. They don't really fit into another army, so they've kind of put them all under this one umbrella with like the Inquisitors and stuff as well. And they're all, obviously they're quite different, like they're from different parts of the Imperium. So I guess the fact that they call them Agents of the Imperium rather than just calling them Inquisition, because if it was an Inquisition faction, it would make complete sense that the Inquisitor has recruited these weird factions. For some reason they didn't want to go with that name. A lot of the characters from this are very cool, but I'm going to go with Inquisitor Greyfax as my favourite out of kind of all the Inquisitors. There are a lot of different Inquisitors. I do like Kyria Draxus, the bold woman with the bird thing, even though she looks like an Eldar character. if I was going to choose my absolute favourite from the range, unfortunately it's not on the web store anymore, so I can't. But there's a special, like, I think it was a store birthday mini, and he's got like a sword and he's stabbing his book, and it's probably one of the coolest, one of the coolest Inquisitor models they've done in ages. Greyfax, I think a gun's silly. I like when they do the crossbow things for Ordo Hereticus. It's I don't really get how they work, but they look cool. She's also rocking heels, which is pretty badass for like on a battlefield. And she's got that cool like steampunk pilgrim kind of aesthetic. I do also like the character as well. I think she has like an interesting dynamic with Celestine. I do like when people pair them up as enemies turned lovers. I think that's nice. My honorable mention as a favorite is the Jacario, big monkey dude. I had this meme list in 7th edition where I actually played a lot of Inquisition as a faction. It was just 10 like proxy Jacarios, and I think I put them in a Valkyrie or something as a transport. And these guys they had laser cannons. I think they wear like a ring and it's like a digital weapon, basically a las cannon. It was a pretty cheesy list. So moving on to the worst one. God, this Inquisition kill team was such a letdown. I was so excited for this. I kept thinking they've done all these other weird factions. Surely they can do like an Inquisitorial, like a retinue as a kill team. They announced this and I was so excited. And then I saw them and I'm just like, I don't know, they're just boring. I like the scribe dude. I got him as a single model just for Necromunda. Other than that, they're just boring. The guy with the spear, who's based on the old artwork, he's alright. And the rest of them are just, I don't know, they're just boring. They're just boring characters. There's nothing going on with them. Like, oh, it's one guy with a gun, and it's just like one guy with a chainsaw. I was hoping maybe they'd do like a new Plastic Crusader, or maybe some Death Cult Assassins or something. Just because you can get Crusader and stuff from Blackstone Fortress, but it's that out of print expansion box that's really expensive. They could have put a Jacario in it as well. Been interesting. Well, Placid Jacario. Also, it's a kill team box, so it's a huge markup from what is just a pretty boring small infantry squad. Our next faction is Imperial Guard. I'm not going to call them by their legally distinct name because it's a silly one. Again, I keep saying this, like I did struggle a bit with Imperial Guard because there's so many classics and a lot of the cool ones are just tanks. There's so many different versions of each tank that it kind of gets a bit difficult. I didn't want it just to be the tanks. For my favourite, I'm going to go with these new guys, these horse cavalry rider people. It's just refreshing to see a unit that isn't just Cadians. They have cool little bomb lancers, they're very cool, and they've got cool hats. I do wish it was a dual kit with Kriegers. It could have just been a head swap and a gas mask for the horse or something. I guess you can't have everything. Choosing the worst for Imperial Guard, it was hard because there's like a lot of old ones. I think you could just choose pretty much any Katachan. They're so old that they don't fit in anymore. I think Sly Marbo's the only new one they've had. I'm going to choose this new Commissar model as the worst mini though. He's so boring. He's got absolutely nothing going on. He doesn't have the proper big Commissar hat, and his cloak and his general silhouette is just like a vertical straight line. It's not even, his coat isn't even flowing in the wind or anything. Commissars are supposed to be these cool, unique, recognizable characters, but if you showed me this guy and didn't tell me he was a Commissar, I'd look at him and I'd be like, I don't know, he's like a boring lieutenant or something. My command squad, like there's nothing about him. So an honourable mention for the worst one is Ursula Creed. I think it's mostly the face. I get that she's an old lady and that's fine. I wasn't expecting her to be this like hot babe, but I don't know, I think it goes a step further than just weird old woman, and she just looks kind of like Uncanny Valley. I think it might just be the paint job. I don't know. She has like this helmet option, and I think it's like based on like a French World War One helmet. It's got like a weird ridge in it, but it's like we've never seen it on any other Imperial Guard mini before, and it's not a Cadian helmet, so I don't know what they were thinking with that. It looks really weird. It looks even weirder than just the bareheaded option. I do think also she's got 2 pistols, and this character would have been so much cooler if she was wielding like both pistols, like Lara Croft style, in like an action pose grandma kind of thing. That would have been so much cooler than she is at the moment. Imperial Knights as a faction, I'm not going to rate these guys because there's only about 3 guys, and most of them are just the same with different weapon options. If I had to pick, it's the new Cerastus Lancer. It was always my favourite when he was in resin. He's got a cool shield and a cool lance. So that's all the Imperial guys. We're now going to move on to Chaos. The first listing on the web store is just Chaos Demons. It doesn't split them into separate gods, which is kind of annoying. You'd sort of think it would because they're so different. And I haven't played them in so long. I don't know if you can take them as Chaos Undivided or if you have to choose a patron god. I don't know how it works. My favourite model is Be'lakor though. He is this outstanding centerpiece model. He's got an amazing pose. He's got so many little details. He looks outstanding. I think I voted for this as my favorite model of the year. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before when he came out. A lot of weird minis in the demon range, so choosing a worst is really hard. Some of the Forge World stuff is really rough. It looks like green stuff conversions, but they kind of accidentally mass-produced them. I think I'm gonna go with the pink horrors. They just upset me. I don't really think pink fits with like the rest of the Tzeentch range very much. They look like naked mole rats with like these weird muscles and stuff. I don't like these guys. I don't think I'm going to be rating Chaos Knights either. Same reason as the Loyalist Knights. They're all basically the same. Onto Chaos Marines themselves. My favourite is the Master of Possessions. I've got one just as a display piece. Like, I love mine. Huge fan. He's got fire everywhere. Loads of fire. His helmet's one of the best helmets I've seen. And he's covered in tiny details, but he doesn't seem as over designed as some of like maybe the Death Guard range that sometimes was a little bit too much going on. This guy, I think they just got it just right. And also like just from a sculpting standpoint, the robe he's wearing folds really neatly over his left greave. You can see where it folds over, and I think it just sells it more as cloth, because sometimes Games Workshops, when they're doing clothing and cloth and stuff, it looks way too thick for it to kind of read as cloth, but I think this really helps. Honourable mention as well is the Dark Apostle. Got a very similar vibe. He's got his tomes, love me tomes. Hate the Emperor, love me tomes. Simple as. There are quite a lot of different Chaos Marines that are really good, but these are just my two favourites. As for the worst, it was always going to be these guys. Chaos Spawn. I mean, Christ. they're just old, weird minis. I've never seen anybody run these either. I think they're also pretty shit in the game. And if they're shit in the game, they look like this. I guess you're never gonna see them. I don't know if the one on the right not having a head, whether that was inspired by like cryptid, like the Grafton monster or something. He's got that kind of leech mouth as well, which is pretty interesting. It's just a shame. It's just a shame he looks like this. I do think the paint job as well, the store photo is really good. As an honourable mention for the worst as well is the Fallen. It's just the same kit as the other Dark Angel one, but they just painted black. Still looks bad in black. Next faction is Death Guard. These guys are a completely separate faction to Chaos Space Marines. My favourite is definitely the Biologus Putrefier. He's got 3 eyes and like the Nurgle symbol. He's got wings made of potions. That mosquito mouthpiece is very nice. He's got a lot of little weird Nurgle details, but I don't think they go quite over the top. Like 1,000 maggots hidden everywhere, and there's not too much going on, which I've said a lot now, but the new Nurgle stuff, there is a lot happening. And I think for the worst one, this champion dude, he gets a pass because of the sassy nurgling, which he is cool. I do like the sassy nurgling. It's just his posing is strange. I can't imagine a single reason why anybody would stand like this with his fist out to the side. It looks like he's stretching his shoulder or something. I don't know what this is supposed to mean. Also, his right leg is really far out to the side, like uncomfortably so. The next faction is Thousand Suns. Again, it's like listed as a separate faction to Chaos Space Marines. The favourite for me is the Infernal Master. He's got this cool brooch thing with scarabs on it. He's got this cool dynamic pose. Again, he's on a tactical rock, but it's fine because they needed to raise him up a bit so that some things would look cooler. And I do like his brazier things on the back with the fire coming out. It's very nice. Just so that I lose all credibility, my worst for Thousand Suns, I'm going with Magnus. I know everybody likes him. I know basically anytime someone plays Thousand Suns, they have to have the Magnus. I really hate his nipple horns. I hate them. I don't understand. He's not a Slanesh mini, he's a Tzeentch mini. Why does he have nipple horns? It was such a weird design decision. Cut them off. Get rid of them. I guess if he didn't have them, maybe that would be fine. Birds do not have horns, and he is a bird creature, but he has horns. I know Zangors have horns, but I do not like it. stop this. Next Legion that they've done as a separate faction, probably just to sell a separate codex if I'm being pessimistic. The best one for me is the Lord of Skulls. He's completely ridiculous. I love it. He's so silly, but Christ, how many skulls are there on him? I'm surely somebody has counted the skulls on him. If anybody owns this model and can be bothered, if you count them and leave a comment, because I genuinely, I do actually wonder how many how many skulls he has. It's got to be over 100, surely. The only thing that throws me off about this is he does look a bit like an American footballer, like with his armor. I don't know why American footballers wear body armor. Nobody in rugby wears armor, and I think they only get like a handful of traumatic brain injuries. So I mean. But you know, whatever works for them. I don't know is this a space marine that got really big and they put him on wheels? Or is this just a vessel there's a demon, they put a demon in? Or is it a combination of two? I don't know. I don't know the lore for him. Also, that plow would push things directly into his tracks, which seems to defeat the point of a plow, but I'm just being picky. Honourable mention for the best character is the new Khan mini. He's a cool guy, very nice dynamic posing. He's got a cool helmet. I like the little mouth things on the side of the helmet. Very weird and chaosy. I do like when World Eaters have the thing when they have like bare arms in the power armor, and he's got like a single vein running down his arm, like on the top of a Mars bar. I do think the chain wrapped over his arm is that seems like it would be really annoying. It seems like he's gonna awkwardly unravel himself. If you're wondering why I didn't choose Angron as the best mini, it's because his chin is really goofy and I hate it. Hard pickings for the bad ones, the worst one, because there's not a lot of unique minis. I think the exalted version of the 8-bound is my least favourite. I just prefer the non-exalted versions much more. His posing's weird with his like bare feet, and I prefer the other guys. I don't hate these ones, I think the normal ones are cooler. Although I have just noticed the buzzsaw at the back, that is pretty cool. So that's it for Chaos. That was really quick compared to Imperium. There's not a lot of factions. Oh, how I wish my beloved Emperor's Children had their own 40k faction. It has been rumoured to be coming out soon, but I remember when it was rumoured that Russ was going to come back at the end of 7th edition. I'm still waiting for that, so I ain't holding my breath or anything. Moving on to Xenos. Moving on to the aliens, starting with our favourite legally distinct elves, the Eldari. The A is silent, I believe. Of course, the coolest model is the avatar of Cain. He's got lava going on, that's pretty cool. He comes with a spear, which is potentially more interesting than the sword. He does also have some different head options, which is nice. The blood on his hand is that's a bit weird, but you know, the rest of him makes up for that. I like his little booties, like the shoes, not his ass. They look very Age of Sigmar, kind of similar to the elf kind of design, which is nice. I do think it would have been cool if the Sword of Cain that he's got looked like the Sword of Cain from the Total War games. I don't know if they based that off artwork that pre-existed or whether it was made for the game itself. And I guess maybe some people don't like it when they cross over the two settings, but whatever. I don't know. That would have been like a nice little nod for me. Honourable mention for the best in the range. The Rangers. I really like these guys. I like what they did with them. It's a shame that when they came out they seem to be a cheap troop option used as cannon fodder. God knows what they're like now because I've never played them in 10. They are very cool. I just like all the robes and stuff. Second honourable mention, these fucking striking scorpions. I love them. I saw them, the original ones, in, I think it was White Dwarf in like 2004. These guys, I thought they were really cool. I loved the colour scheme, like the green and the yellow. It's just a shame that they're a kill team and they're about £200 a set for something that I'd probably want to use like 2 or 3 times in an army. I do wonder why it has 2 statues though. Is it? Oh, never mind. It's because it'll be like two identical sprues of 5, won't it? Very nice though. Cool guys. It's just a shame they made them a kill team. For the worst for Eldar, it'd be really easy just to choose the old 20-year-old sets. They're still selling all these old metal and resin minis from so long ago that it's just a little bit sad. If I was including Forge World, the Nightwing plane thing, I think it's called, would have been the worst because it's absolutely clapped. The wings are fucked. Instead, I'm going to choose this Autarch. I think this is going to upset some people because I see him a lot. I see a lot of people seem to have bought him. Why did they put her on an angle? She's on this tactical rock, but she's standing as if she's on flat ground. She's not leaning forward or bending a leg or anything. She's just standing at this weird angle. It's like somebody made the mini and then somebody else came along and said, oh, we're going to put her on this rock that's angled, and they just didn't change the pose of the main model. It just looks really silly to me. And they also have this really boring banner. I don't like it. Honorable mention for the worst model. Technically not the same faction, but it's on the same web store page, so whatever. If you look past all the thirst for this character and the memes about her and Gilliman, you'll notice it's actually a very cunningly disguised Age of Sigmar character and a very strange looking cat creature. I don't know where her second leg is. I don't know if she only has one leg. It's a very long leg, but I don't know. I just hate how they always insist every female character for this game is bald with a top knot. Why can't they just sculpt hair competently? I know, like, there's a few exceptions, and I know Sisters of Battle, like some of them, instead of having a top knot, they've got like a bob haircut that looks equally strange. I just wish they'd have put a little bit more into giving a normal hair. Maybe that would have been cooler. My main problem here is that she's not a 40k model. She looks like an Age of Sigmar character model, like one of these big centerpiece characters. I do wonder if anybody actually knows who designed this model, because Games Workshop's really secretive with who designed what. I'd be interested to see if they actually used to do Age of Sigmar and they bought them over either just to do this one model, or they kind of switched over to 40k. It just reads as an Age of Sigmar model. I don't know if I'm just having a moment, or if that makes sense to other people. I don't know. Give her a gun or something. So sadly, Harlequins they're just listed under the normal Eldari bit on the page. They're no longer their own faction, which is very cool. That's nice to see. I love that. There are some very lovely minis in their range though. The Solitaire is one of my favourite models ever. They've got really cool lore. It's just a very nice model. I still haven't painted mine because I'm scared I'm going to ruin it. It's just sitting on my desk staring at me. I can't choose my least favourite in the range because there's literally about 4 specific ones in the Harlequin only. They're all very nice. Next faction are the legally distinct Dark Eldar, the Drukhari. Probably one of the only factions I hear people refer to them by that legally distinct name. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I've bought Drukhari, but I've never heard anybody say I've bought Eldari. Thank God, because Eldari is just silly. I mean, good lord, what happened to the Dark Eldar on the web store? Loads of their cool units just aren't available anymore. I used to really like homunculus armies, but they're very hard now because of the price of buying like the resin models and stuff. I did like a while ago they did a made to order range. You could buy a lot of the older models from the discontinued models from the range. It's just a shame that most of these are in Legends, so it's kind of hard to play it if you play any kind of like ranked game or tournament. The other thing as well is like my aversion to getting stuff that's in Legends is that it means it's only going to be like edition away from not being included at all. I worry. So like I'd be like, oh, you can always play it with Legends rules, but then next year 11th edition's going to come out and then it just won't be in the index at all. And I'm sort of like, well, I don't want to just get like a year out of playing it. I want to play it all the time. I think it's reasons like this that a lot of old fans are going back to playing stuff like 7th edition, or even I've seen people go back and play like 5th edition and even really, really old stuff like Second Ed, just because I guess kind of less new stuff to worry about and that nostalgia factor. My favourite for the range are the racks. They're a bit dated, but they capture that weird Cenobite aesthetic that they kind of went with the homunculus covens. They have a very distinct character to them. They don't look like anything else I've seen in like a different setting or anything. I do like when people paint them with orc or tau like skin tones, just to show the variety of different victims they've been made out of. There is a story in I think the 5th edition, I want to say the Tau Codex, it might have been the Dark Eldar Codex, when they first made contact with Dark Eldar. For some reason the Tau agreed to like give them groups of like hostages or something, and then they were really surprised when when really bad things happened to these hostages. Very strange. Honourable mention to the Incubi. They're very popular for a good reason. They've got amazing minis, very nice sculpts. I like all these poses. I think they've been recently refreshed. I don't know if it was last edition. My only issue is the two-handed glaives always look a little bit janky because I guess it's kind of an impractical weapon.
Honorable mention for Lilith as well. The only issue is where are her shoes? Why she's on a battlefield? Put some fucking shoes on. I do like the Dead Craft World guy at the bottom as well. The only thing with Eldar characters though is if they have to have them on a rock, they always seem to be jumping off the same bit of rubble. It's always like this little arch bit, which is funny to me. The Dark Eldar, the worst one, difficult because none of them are really bad except for this fucking dude. I forgot about him initially, but I do own him. I don't know why. I think I must have got him really cheap on like Troll Trader or something. He's just silly. He's got a very strange pose. He looks like in Overwatch when Reaper comes out of the floor, he's like crossed his guns in the most edgy way possible. And he has like that same pose and it's just really weird to me. Also, sorry for the Overwatch reference. I don't like that game. Moving on to the next Xenos faction, the Genestealer cults. One of the armies I actually collect. I love their whole vibe. It's a shame that they're a really weird faction to actually play in 40k. They're always the underdogs, although for me that's kind of one of the appeals for them. I do hope that they sell well for Games Workshop and that they actually keep releasing new things for them. I do find we've kind of been stuck in this obligatory like single character to accompany the codex every edition. And if there's one thing we don't need any more of, it's fucking Genestealer characters, because we've got about 37 of them. So speaking of characters, my favourite is the Kellamorph, I think. It's Hive Noon. That's the second Overwatch reference I've made in a very short time frame, so please ignore that. He's got 3 arms, he's got 3 guns, he's got a cool cloak and a bandana. He looks like a wild western gunslinger. Exquisite character design. He's a lovely centerpiece if you're playing Genestealers in a Necromunda game, but he is just as cool in 40k. He does have the cylinder on the revolver on his left. Is backwards. Those notches should be the other way around, I believe. But it is Games Workshop, and they cannot make a realistic gun to save their life. So I guess we'll never know. A lot of cool characters, like I said, so it's difficult to choose one. I think he's probably my favourite, but it's closely followed by these two. Biophagus, very cool mad scientist. A little bit goofy, but in like a fun way. And he's got his cool little friend. I love when they do this. Little bits of levity in like a grimdark setting. Second honourable mention is Bomb Mommy, whatever her name is. She may be the only character in the whole range who has a wristwatch. I had a look. I don't think any other character has ever been sculpted with a wristwatch. I don't think this is important. It's something I noticed. So if you're a watch aficionado, this is the model for you. My least favourite for Genestealers is the Jackal Alphas. He is £27.50 for just a single guy, and if you want the squad that he accompanies, it's literally only £10 more, and you get 5 guys instead of 1. My main issue with him though is that he appears to be having previously had some kind of massive stroke. He has it's a very weird face. The mouth is very strange, and I do not know what is happening on his left ear. There's something on it. I thought it was a maggot. They've sort of painted it like it was a maggot, but then, I don't know, it doesn't read like one. It doesn't make sense. Is it a hearing aid? I don't know. Next faction is Leagues of Votann. I think it has 2 ends. I think it's Leagues of Votann. I normally call them squats because they are the squat refresh. Anybody who pisses and moans that they're not called squats is just buying into the Games Workshop doing their like legally distinct naming thing, which is cringe. Don't do that. Argue with me in the comments. The best in the range is the Hecaton Land Fortress. It's pretty big. I bet it weighs a heckin' ton, yeah. It's not actually as big as I thought it was going to be, to be fair. When they revealed this, I thought it was going to be maybe like twice the size of what it is, especially for the price they charge for it, but it is vaguely approximate to a Land Raider. It is a good point now to point out the dumb lore reason why Space Marines call them Land Raiders. I assumed it was because it was a tank that drives on the land and it's used in raids, but instead they said it's named after a guy whose last name was Land. Seems like a weird afterthought they made up. If his last name was Raider, that would have been cool, but they went with Land for some reason, so there we go. I do like the NASA punk aesthetic they went with Leagues of Votann. They look kind of spacey in like a very cool way. I do wish though the main turret on this was a little bit different, maybe like a bit bigger, or again sort of integrated into the chassis more than just being like a little piddly like thing just stuck on the top. I guess this isn't supposed to be a tank, it's supposed to be an APC with a big support weapon on it, but it certainly fucking plays as a tank. That railgun is mental. I played Leagues of Votan in a Crusade game in 9th edition, and I went up against a Lehman Russ and just blew it up. I felt really bad for my opponent because it's just this fucking Land Raider with a gun on it that was good enough to crack tanks open. It's very strange. I do like the train coupling on the back of him as well. I really wish this comes out as part of like a land train to be like what the old squats used to have. Maybe when they get more than like 5 minis in the whole range, maybe they'll do something like that. I just think, imagine like the movement rules for like a train. Kind of weird. My least favourite in the range for Votan, it's got to be the trikes. If they had wheels, that would have been cool. They could have been like bikers, trikers. It would have been nice because I do like the scouts, like the people driving it are very cool. They've just got that kill team where they're just on foot. And it's like 100 times better. Much cooler just walking around. I just feel like the design of these bikes doesn't really fit like the rest of what we've seen of Votan. I think part of it is mixing wheels and hover tech is strange. Same complaint I had with Space Marines and the ATV. Although this one makes more sense because it's the scout vehicle that has the hover compared to the rest of them which don't, which I guess makes sense as a scout vehicle. I just think it's very, very weird. Has the same problem as the ATV with the turret being just in front of the driver's eyes. This time he's not wearing a helmet, so he is going to get deafened. Next up is Necrons. I cannot decide if I actually like Necrons or not. I sold my Necron half of the Indomitus box set. I do like their lore, and I like Tomb Kings in the old world. These guys, I don't know, they don't scratch that same kind of itch for me. My favourite would be the Chronomancer. He's got very nice posing. It's cool that he doesn't have legs. I like when they do weird stuff with Necrons, because they can be whatever shape they want. And he's got that weird, like, Egyptian beard thing, which is nice. I've seen people be annoyed that these characters are like monopose, and that if you want to convert it that makes it harder, but I don't know, I really struggle to care when these monopose people complain. I get it for a squad of infantry, but for a character, you're only going to have one of these guys. If you're having 3, I mean, is anybody really taking 3 Chronomancers? The worst one for these guys, very easy pick, the Lockhurst Heavy Destroyer. Emphasis on heavy. This guy is massive. Like, what the hell were they thinking with him? Absolutely speechless. When I first saw him, I just stared at him. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. He's got a very over-the-top gun, which is cool, but bottom half of him is just massive. And I know he's supposed to be based on like the old destroyers, but fucking hell, he's so big. He's like one of those people in that show, My £400 Life, where they're like trundling around on a mobility scooter and they're like spilling over the sides of it. No, Makotep, pizza is not part of your diet. That was a My £400 Life joke. Also, this is the picture of the old destroyers that they're based off. Very strange. They're like shit centaurs. Also, honourable mention for the worst one is the Banana Man. I think this one speaks for itself. I do wonder. So the whole thing with being a Catan is like, I thought they were imprisoned by the Necrons. It seems like this guy, they just kind of let him go and he just kind of fucks about. I don't know why he wouldn't just turn around and attack the Necrons though. It is insane this guy's still for sale and half the resin stuff for Dark Eldar's gone, but I'm assuming nobody ever bought this guy, so it's just the same stock they made 20 years ago. So for Orcs, I really wish they'd get a proper refresh. I don't mean that one that completely changed their aesthetic, like when they brought out the Beastie Boys, or whatever that side faction was called. I think hopefully like the next box set for 11th edition will be Space Marines versus Orcs, and they'll get like a whole big refresh like Tyranids and stuff have gotten. At the speed Games Workshop is churning through editions though. 11th edition's probably going to be out next month, so at least we don't have too long to wait. My favourite is the Commandos. Downside, it's a kill team, miniature wise, very cool. They kind of did the different commando kind of aesthetics very, very well. I really like when Orcs kind of parody things. I really like the little grot at the front, just his nose sticking out of his wetsuit. That's very nice. Out of my worst one, the Pain Boy. I think it's because he has the Giga Chad jaw. It's very strange. And the prosthetic leg he's got is kind of a little bit weird. I do like the little jolly guy on the top with the kneel. That's nice. But the rest of it, not a fan. Honourable mention for the Weird Boy that I showed earlier in the video. He's just an old model, but I genuinely have no fucking idea what the little grot is doing with the chain. I don't understand how or why the chain is at that angle. Like what he's doing with it. I don't know. You'd have to just like snip this guy off and just not have him on the model. Side story time for Orcs as well, because I haven't been sidetracked enough during this video yet. When I was a kid, I asked my dad for some Tau for my birthday, and I was like, it has to be Tau. I collect the armies called Tau. Please make sure it's Tau. And I was so excited because on my birthday, the gift was like the right shape and size for a hammerhead or something. And I shook it, it made like a jangling sprue noise. And then I opened it and it was an orc truck. And I was like, oh, cool. I had to like pretend that it was fine. The only problem was that like at the time I really hated orcs, like viscerally. I didn't like them at all. So I had this model and I was like, I can't use this. So I think I never actually built it. I sold it about 15 years later for about a tenner, I think. Swings and roundabouts. Next up is Tau. These are another army that I actually collect, as I've got quite a lot of points worth. Started out with the old Battle Force box when I was a kid. Annoyingly, instead of having a cool unit to fill out the Battle Force, like stealth suits or something, put this fucking sprue of like trees in there. The worst things I've ever seen. I hate them. So my best in the range, it's got to be this new Farsight Mini. Very nice character model. The angle does make his groin look very strange, I've just noticed. He kind of nails this cool samurai aesthetic very nicely. It's got like little cherry blossoms and stuff. Honourable mention for Tau as the best mini is the Riptide. I think it's an iconic model. It's a big mecha battle suit thing, and it's the one that you see a lot of. Or if you still say Tau don't fit into 40k because it's too mecha, I think it's been 20 years, man. Just like get over it. It annoys me. You say, "Oh, I have Tau," and people are like, "Ugh, I hate Tau," and it's like, yeah, all right, go away. My worst in the range is this Ethereal on a hover drone. He costs about £3 on eBay because I think everybody bought multiple of Combat Patrol or whatever, and you don't need more than one of this guy. Ideally, you don't need any of this guy because he's fucked. Just the idea of him flying around on a drone and not falling off is very funny to me. His forearms are weird and his face is a bit weird. I do like his armor and I do like his little rosary that he's got, so it's not all bad. I am going to do Kroot separately as well because you can play them as a separate army now with one of the Tau detachments, and they have almost as many models as Leagues of Votann do, which is crazy to me. But I've just counted and Kroot have 9 sets including their kill team. Votann have 14. That does include 2 kill teams though, which is crazy. They have 2. My favourite for Kroot is the Lone Spear. Big axolotl mount. Very nice. He's got one of those little lever things you used to like throw a javelin further. I don't know what they're called, but it's a nice little detail. I was so happy when they updated Kroot. I really love Kroot. I've tried to play like Kroot only Tau armies for a long time. Now that you can actually do it feasibly and potentially even have an army that will win games is nice. I did have to choose a least favourite. This doesn't mean I don't like this model, but it is my least favourite of the new ones, and it's this Flesh Shaper. It just doesn't stand out as much as the other ones for me. I think I'll probably get them confused as well. Like they're all, the Shapers are all fairly similar looking. I do like he's got these meat hooks on him. It's quite cool. So maybe I'll just look for the meat hooks. That'll be how I'll differentiate them. So our final faction is the Tyranids. Surprised they didn't change their name to like Titranids or something. That was supposed to be a joke. My favourite is the Norn Emissary. I like how like massive he is. And he's got that big brain, which is very nice. He looks big and scary. I have also just noticed he has hooves, which is kind of weird, but you know, pretty cool. Honourable mention for the new guys is the new Lictor. It's a new take on a classic. I really like the Mind Flayer mouth tentacle things, and it's like mantis-esque snappy blade arms. He's on a tactical rock, but at least it's technically not a rock. My worst one is the Harpy. This guy is goofy as hell. The Harpy, he just looks dog shit. It's like he's laughing or screaming. I don't know. He also has the Giga Chad jaw going on again. And like he doesn't have any legs, but he has these 2 massive arms. Also the flying base is so obvious on this. Like you'd need to change it for like a cylinder of acrylic or something. Just, yeah, it looks very bad. Honourable mention for the worst is the Muragaunts. They look very strange. They're visually very different to me. They look like stunted Tyranids where like something went wrong when they were born. I don't know. Just very odd. I don't know if it's because they're painted pink and the rest of them's done in the Leviathan scheme, so it's like purple and pink. Looks a bit weird. From what I understand, these guys are terrible in the game, so I guess you'll never actually see them played, which is nice. But yeah, that's it. That's all the models. If I had to choose a least favourite, it's probably still the face of the Jackal Alphas. Really hurts. And it hurts more because it's Gene Stealers and I love Gene Stealers. That's probably my least favourite part of a model. Definitely needs a head swap. If you made it this far into the video, thank you very much. This is my first foray into making content like this. You could probably tell by the amount of random segues into bullshit that I went into, and just the fact that it's such a long video. I've been getting slowly, even over the course of making this one video, much better at editing, so hopefully they'll just keep getting better. I will keep making more. It'll take a few videos of nobody caring before before I feel bad and stop. But I do certainly enjoy like a very long ranking video like this to watch like in the background while I'm doing stuff. So hopefully that's the kind of thing that other people will also enjoy, and maybe the YouTube algorithm will enjoy it as well. So if you want to continue to see me rant about jet engines and Aquillas or some bullshit, maybe subscribe or like. If you want to argue with me in the comments, that's fine, because I'm pretty sure that helps the algorithm as well. I think next up, I'll probably be looking at Necromunda minis, because that's one of my favourite specialist games. And I will also be looking at other systems like Age of Sigmar, The Old World. I play pretty much all the Games Workshop settings they put out, which is kind of cringe to admit. I'm sure I can find something to make a video about. But yeah, thank you very much for watching.